Live on Sportsnet 590, The Fan. Watching on Sportsnet 360 and Sportsnet Plus. The Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Leaf Hour. As we kick things off, a little over 24 hours before we go full throttle on Sportsnet with 3 games tomorrow night, led by Toronto and Montreal.
The Leafs of old will get killed in that game, by the way.
The Leafs of old?
Sheldon Keefe Leafs.
You had that as a loss?
Didn't they do that a lot?
No, they usually won the opener, but it was always like a wild one. Remember
I just remember watching them play bad teams in the first month last year with you guys, like Chicago, and watching the Leafs just limp out to a 2-1 loss.
Yeah, that's the first game we ever watched together, and Kyper said I talked too much. So
At least it didn't stick with you at all.
National Hockey League gets on board on this side of North America. The Blues and the Seattle Kraken, a little over half an hour puck drop.
1:30 local.
1:30 Seattle time.
It's a triple header for, I think, ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a bit of a main event at 7 p.m. with the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers.
Love that.
That's
Love that.
that one's a must watch. And then the Blackhawks and this new Utah Hockey Club.
That's kind of cool. I saw Paul Maurice had some quote that Boston and Florida have played 21 times in the last 2 seasons, and he said I'd have paid to watch every one of those games. So that's a good way. That's a good game.
You add a
You
new
get that in prime time.
You added a new wrinkle into it with Zadorov. You know he's going to be looking to hurt somebody tonight.
Yeah,
he fired up. They'll be getting their. You know, it's a big night for those two.
Now
teams.
they're not doing the cup rings tonight, right?
Why wouldn't they? So they're not doing the cup rings, but they're still having the game.
Yeah, it was actually something weather related why they were not doing that. I'm not sure. Did you see the rings, guys?
I did. I liked them.
Yeah,
sure.
I thought that
they're all gaudy at this point, but
these were
they're supposed to be
gaudy. I thought some of the new ones, like was it Tampa's that like unscrewed and you saw the rink on the inside and relax. This was a nice looking ring. Good job.
They all look the same to me now. It's just like as big as you can possibly do and as many diamonds as you can possibly do.
Right.
In our next hour, when we go national, we'll welcome in Dominic Moore, former Toronto Maple Leaf NHLer, who's doing TV analyst work for the Utah Hockey Club.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get him and his thoughts on many things, including obstructed seats. I don't know what they have, 1,000,
it's absurd
2,000, 5,000.
Yeah.
I think there's only about maybe 10, 11,000 people that can actually see the ice.
Is that right?
Full ice.
Okay.
Not partial.
You've brought this up like 3 days in a row.
Well, ask Dom.
Is this a thing? Like I haven't seen that
it
anywhere
is
else.
a thing.
Really?
I don't know what the actual number of seats that are obstructed, but it reminds me of my dad coaching the IHL, and I want to say their rink in Vegas. So if you sat in one of the ends, you couldn't see the short side goal.
Oh, that's a crappy seat.
These sound like issues that like
an
we heard
IHL
from-
team in Las Vegas would have.
No, in Arizona. Like there's always something going on in Arizona.
You know, like it's the only thing that bothers me here is it's supposed to be this nice rink and hearing that they're going to build a new rink in Utah for the 2034 Olympics. And so people being like, they're going to fix it for the 2034 Olympics.
Providing
it's 2024.
Providing you're still alive.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know, but I am excited to see Utah get going. I would like them to have a name. I would like, a nicer rink without obstructed seats, but at least it ain't mullet.
Satiar Shah will also join us at the top of the hour, and we'll get into the Canucks a little bit, host of Canucks Central for Sportsnet. So, plenty to chew on. And Jim Ralph will come back, a guy that is very familiar to the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. And we start our focus on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we said a little over 24 hours. We saw the roster. It's locked in. Huge surprises, a few surprises. Some guys emerge as depth guys. Myers, we mentioned yesterday in the show, but overall kind of shaping up the way we thought it would shape up.
Yes, except for I think it was clearly Joseph Woll's hockey team. They got Stolarz to be the backup. That was kind of the way it looked. And then preseason, Stolarz was awfully good. Woll was good too. But it doesn't sound. We got some Berube sound on this. Is that right?
The theme of the morning skate
Did you
practice
just
day.
sneeze?
No, I was about to burp. Quite honestly,
Burp.
Yeah, and I
don't think
hit
I've
it
ever heard anyone belch
on air.
and
on air.
You've also never sneezed on air.
They wouldn't have if you didn't bring it up because I turned off my mic and went like this. So
Well
that
done.
was. I'm glad we
I
did
know.
that.
You know, Kip's been in media for 30-some years. He's never sneezed
Yes,
on air.
I've got a 30-plus-year record of never sneezing on air.
I want it to happen so
I don't
bad.
think that's true. I think that's a lie. I think
Trust me, I know.
okay.
Yeah, I know, because I sneezed last year a couple times. He's like,
I'm
I've
telling you
never
right
done
now, if I sneeze, something's falling off the wall.
that. You got the dad
Yes,
sneeze?
I got.
I actually don't know if I've ever even heard you sneeze. Period. Not a sneezer.
He might be a non-sneezer.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
like a Seinfeld episode. He's a non-sneezer. A non-sneezer.
Yeah.
But you had a silent belch just 2 seconds ago.
I wouldn't call it a belch. I mean, it's not like I had a can of Sprite and let her rip or something
You're not
here. It was
that-
like a little
You're
indigestion.
not that guy that can do the alphabet, are you?
No, I can burp really loud. Anyways, the theme of practice today, like all the questions towards Berube, a couple questions towards Treliving, who spoke today.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is goaltender related again. And I think, in my opinion here, there's not a ton to talk about with this team in terms of asking the coach questions and where guys stand.
So
but like the goaltending is a clear spot.
Is Berube going all coy on this now?
So,
I
okay.
can't be.
Well, here's what we'll do. We'll start with the clip 1 on how he's going to handle the goalies.
Okay.
And then we'll go from there. Okay. So Berube clip 1.
Well, I think, it's a feel thing, and I think you got to go off of workload and things like that, back-to-back games. There's some scenarios that come up, but, if you're winning, there's probably a good chance you might stay in.
I think I don't mean this in a condescending way, but he is a simple man.
Mm-hmm.
You win, you're in.
Mm.
This is
Okay,
an old school.
Hold on for a second. Hold on. There's a difference between a win and winning.
So
how does a win become winning without a second consecutive start? So
I think you're.
where are we on this? Win and stay in, or
Yeah, maybe not as a hard and fast rule. I don't think they'll do back-to-backs ever.
No.
They'll always each get a game of a back-to-back.
So how do you get a second consecutive start? Is my point.
There's got to be a day between. You got to win. I bet. Let's say one guy wins, one loses in the first 2 games. I bet I can predict who plays game 3. It's just going to be. I think it's going to be pretty simple.
Okay. So then the second clip on who starts tomorrow. Let's just have that one, please, Derek.
Okay.
For the first start, was it an easy call to give it just to Joseph because he's
Did I give it to somebody?
Oh, sorry, he was talking like he was.
Well, I never mentioned nothing, but, whatever.
Will you start Joseph tomorrow?
Well, we'll see tomorrow. I'm not jumping to conclusions or anything. We'll see tomorrow. That's tomorrow. Today's today.
So he's made up.
Just game
So
just say it's Woll.
there's only 2 scenarios here. He's made up his mind. He's not telling anybody, or he hasn't made up his mind.
So he has made up his mind, right? Because all the information is in. You've had the meetings. You're prepared. They know who's going to start. They're not like, well, we'll see who dresses better today. They've made up their mind.
That Stolarz looks good in a suit.
Yeah. So I presume they know. So are we going to do a whole year?
I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes.
We're going to.
Yes.
All right. At least that gives us some juice.
Is this?
We spent so much
the
time
plan.
talking last year about goalies, and we're dialing it
Is
up
this
again.
is this Berube like kind of setting his mark for the media,
Yeah. Don't ask me or
just you're on a need to know basis, and right now you don't need to know.
treat them
That's
like
not for
mushrooms.
today.
Today.
Yeah. Well, okay. I am still assuming it's Joseph Woll. I think
Yeah.
we went into this season assuming that, but unless there's this, I don't know, some tweak that we don't know about.
Well, we left last week's show on a Friday where I don't know. Was it somebody mentioned
Luke.
that Luke? Was it
Yeah.
Luke that
Yeah.
they
There's
a
thought
tweak in a drill.
he might have tweaked something, and all indications were that there is nothing.
Mhm.
It was fine.
Mhm.
So
But there's the other thing on this. Stolarz is from Jersey, and
Yeah.
they're going to want to play him in Jersey.
Uh-huh.
That's like a thing. So if Woll is healthy, he'll play.
Wednesday night
Wednesday
and go to Stolarz on Thursday. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
we're already in the back-to-backs to start 3 and 4 nights. That's written in stone.
It's the Saturday night that'll be most interesting, based off performance, based off expectations. If it's Stolarz Game 3, it would be fascinating. We'd be here Monday like, goalie controversy.
So they,
listen, he's coming off a really impressive preseason game in Detroit.
Windmill City.
Let's assume that based on New Jersey coming out of the gate 2-0 out of Prague, feeling a lot of momentum. Not a lot of people would give the Leafs a chance on a back-to-back going into New Jersey as a win.
One of the few games there'll be a true underdog in.
Is that a scheduled loss for the Leafs?
Pretty early to call it a scheduled loss, but I think, that's one you would look at and go, back-to-back, their home opener, whatever. Yeah, I would say that's a tough night.
Like they're definitely the underdogs, the Leafs, going into that game.
No question.
But the injury thing that you mentioned is interesting. We have clips both coach and GM weighed in on Woll's injury history a little bit. Sam, is there an order you want to play those in?
Well, we'll start with Berube because you'll hear the tone when he's asked about it. So clip 4, please.
That's in the past. I really can't comment on that. I was not here. So, I mean, not being here and not being around it, not being involved in it, it's pretty hard for me to answer that question. That's in the past. Well, studied, I have studied it and looked at it, but it's still hard to determine, what went on exactly and where the guy was at the time with the injury and everything. There's a lot of things that go into it. So I'm not going to focus on that. I'm focusing on the future.
He's going to be so sick of this so quickly.
And also, like, what else is he supposed to say? Like, the guy sometimes got hurt. He's not hurt now. I'm going to play him. What do you want me to do?
He gave the most logical answer.
Yeah.
Is that there's no rhyme or reason to, and especially, like he said, he was not here, so he doesn't.
That I don't.
What?
The I was not here thing. It's like,
well, no, there's a better, but if you are here, there's a better understanding to know exactly what the scenario is or the athlete's willingness to go through it. There's more.
Sure.
If as a head coach, if you've been through it, then you got your opinion, you got your general manager's opinion, you got a doctor's opinion, you got a teammate's opinion, you got a trainer's opinion, and then you kind of form whatever you want to form.
Right.
At the end of the day, he's like, he could still research it, but what's the point?
Yeah.
So I get what he's saying. It's like, okay, let's move forward here. If this guy stays healthy all year, then why did I waste my time?
Yeah, I'm already worried about it. But you're right. If he stays healthy all year, there's nothing to see here.
Yep.
And there is a sense that he did address a few things in the off season, the way he trained or the way he focused on certain muscles that necessarily could support whatever in the past that he suffered from. There's different ways to go about your daily routine that changed things up for him. Mm-hmm. And it was enough that the Leafs were comfortable. He was comfortable because he likes his routines too.
Yeah.
But he acknowledged that he needed to change something in the offseason.
And the general manager alluded to that while speaking of it. Brad Schlivin, clip 1, please.
Well, guys can get hurt, right? Like, that happens, I don't know. We hopefully spent lots of time on working at it, but that doesn't mean, sometimes luck runs in the way, right? Like, I know he's worked really hard, David. Like, he's had a really good summer. He's really fit. We looked at some different things in terms of his mechanics and all those types of things and core but he's always been dialed in with that. So yeah, he's put in all the work. We're hopeful he can stay healthy. Stuff happens, but he's looked real good.
Is fitness been an issue in the past? And interesting, he mentioned we've looked into things. He didn't want to say too much, but he said core. I wonder if Woll is maybe a guy that they changed some of the fitness expectations for. Total speculation on that, but
yeah,
it did come up in that comment anyway. So
you asked me if he's fitter or if he's
if maybe in the past
harder.
he wasn't as fit as an NHL athlete needs to be, or
I think there's always ways that you can make yourself stronger in certain areas, but that's like now you're talking about a goalie, right? You just have to stop the puck. You don't have to beat it up.
right.
And the Leafs have, 17 doctors that probably all have a different opinion on it. So they got a lot of really well-paid people to be able to figure this stuff out. So I'm sure they've came up with some theories.
Yeah. Well, let's
Some
listen to the
PowerPoint
man
presentation.
himself. Yeah. Let's listen to Joseph Woll. His comfort level coming into the season.
Definitely feel more comfortable coming in than last year, and to have a full year under your belt and that experience gives you the knowledge that you can you belong and you can do it, and I'm excited to take that step.
Here you go.
Yep.
Comfortable.
Well, I know that it's going to be a question mark, and it may be a question mark that can kind of feel better by a month from now, Christmas, February, March, but you're always going to go in with that unknown of inexperienced guys in the playoffs. But it already feels better in that than the last few years for me, anyways.
Agreed.
And I'm watching some of the biggest goalies I've ever seen, a collection of the biggest goalies I've ever seen on any NHL club, and they're way quieter than whatever I've seen out of Samsonov.
Yeah, so before that, David
Going
Rittich,
post
Peter
to
Mrazek.
going post to post,
Yeah.
right? And these guys are all like Stolarz is like 240 pounds.
Yeah, I loved.
He's a big man, and there's no signs, whatever we've seen in this preseason, that this guy is never not in control of his big body.
Yeah. It was Valley, I think, who talked about once you get to a certain size, you're no longer attacking the puck, but receiving it. Like he's just so big. His job is not to go make these spectacular saves. You're just big. Be big in the net.
Speaking of big guys, Brad Treliving gave an update on Yanni Hakanpää today, which you guys are probably interested in. So can I have clip number 2 from Treliving, please, Derek?
Well, we'd kind of thought coming into it, it'd be a few weeks. Touch wood, there's been no setbacks. I think, we're hopeful next. I mean, he's been practicing, but it hasn't been, it hasn't been full contact. And then we'll hopefully have a game plan here in the next couple of weeks, whether that means, then maybe get him into some games with the Marlies on a condition. We'll see, but better read probably in the next couple of weeks.
It's the full part that's missing.
Yeah, I also thought it was great.
Hey, you can skate great, right?
Yeah.
You can do some nice drills.
Yeah.
But
when you're expected to be physical,
you don't know.
No.
You're totally rolling the dice on this guy.
Yeah.
Clearly, Dallas had enough of it, seen enough, can't count on him. Too hard to manage. Leafs, it's a small blue line over the last few years that got real big and can get a lot bigger with this guy in it. That's the lure. He's big.
But I got to tell you, it's tough to see this one coming together. I didn't like the phrasing. We should hopefully have a game plan sometime in the next few weeks. Is not
Kyper,
promising.
You know more things than you let on, and I can. Over the 4 years we've been doing this show together, I can get a pretty good read on you of some.
No,
you don't think this guy's. You guys just don't think this guy's going to play
you
much.
Can't read a.
Yeah, I can.
I'm just teasing.
But no, you're right. I can't get through a book. You're right. But I don't think you think he's going to play very much, if like at all.
But I think you're Elmer's glue, popsicle sticks, whatever you need to do is to keep this guy together. Just get him somewhat in a situation where in a game 2, a game 4, a game 6, he might play.
Yeah, the guy's played 11 games all year and turns like the Titanic. I'm not thrilled about him getting into a playoff game.
He's got the turning radius of my old 87 Volvo.
And he's the type of guy that may play if you lose a Benoit in the playoffs, right?
So we're not even talking about this guy being a player for the Leafs this year. That's not the conversation we're having here. This is not, do you like Timmins?
Listen,
Do you like Liljegren? Do you like Hakanpää? It's like, if he's ever available, maybe
I don't know,
someday.
40, 50 games. Like, is that what the goal is?
That would be great. That would blow my mind. If he plays over 41 games this year, I would be shocked.
Yeah, I would be surprised too.
Yeah.
How about
I'll
before we get to our Bet365 segment, I'll come up with my own number here. 28.5 games for the Leafs this year for Hakanpää.
This is just
28.5.
Over under.
I'll take the under. Yeah.
I was going low. Hope.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 25 to 30.
Okay.
But this is pain tolerance. We had
right.
we had Dr. Jason Smith on last week talking about managing it with his pain threshold, and if there's swelling involved, how quickly does it come down? How much? So this is just him and the Leafs managing this thing together.
Yeah. Are you good on that one?
Yep.
Or do you want to do power play 2 or expectations for Matthews' captaincy?
Captaincy.
Sure.
Because Treliving had said something interesting I wanted to ask you guys about.
Yeah.
So let's clip 3 from Treliving, please, Derek.
Well, I don't expect anything different. When we went through this and we talked about it at the the press conference when he was named captain, he doesn't have to change anything. He's a guy that people in this room follow. His on-ice game, we know what he can do offensively. To me, he's one of the best two-way players in the game. I don't think he gets nearly enough attention to how he plays away from the puck and how he checks and how he sets the standard for our team. So just need him to be Austin.
So if you don't need him to change anything, then why? What was the point of doing this huge ceremonial thing where you took it off of a guy that came home and did if you wanted him just to be the same guy, then why'd you change anything? That's the part of it I don't get.
I think you hope that it changes things for other people. You hope it takes some heat off Tavares, and maybe Tavares can give you a little bit more.
And listen,
and we'll have actual hockey to talk about here soon. So we'll keep doing this, but I just found that
Brad
interesting.
Treliving's a pretty straight up guy, and he's been around a while, long enough where he's earned a lot of respect for being a straight up guy. He's not, in my opinion, coming truthful on this comment.
Bit of a fib.
It's to protect Austin,
okay,
but he wants to see a change. Okay, he expects this to feel like this is your team, and it means it's your team in whatever way you see it. But you have to see it, and that's what the C does. It makes it abundantly clear. You don't appear. You don't appear as in 8 years to be a guy to stand up and start yelling. So I don't really expect that. But if you feel like there might be a moment when you need to say something, do something, you have the total green light to do it. And you're not stepping on anyone's toes. And maybe it was a scenario where maybe you were scared to step on JT's toes. Whatever it is, he's going to have to figure it out for himself on what that means. But Brad Treliving didn't do this to keep it looking exactly the same, Sam.
So it's a smart
you.
thing to say, though, to say, did not pour extra heat on Matthews.
But
he's not publicly going to come out and say, yeah, I expect him to take charge now.
Yeah.
But from a fan's perspective, and that is why I'm here after all, could he not just say that? This core
it adds pressure.
I mean, this core has been coddled forever.
JB's right. It adds pressure.
But this core has been nothing but coddled from the very start. Could one person come up and be like, yeah, we need him to be the captain. We need him to lead. We need him to be better at that.
Yes.
Would that kill everybody?
But not before in early October, before the season's ever started.
Okay.
You let it play out, and you may need to revisit that, or maybe even come up with that comment in November, mid-November, maybe December. You save that, Sammy. It's a long season here. They've lost 4 of 6. Matthews hasn't played that well, and then maybe you want to play something like that out somewhere.
It's also been a long 8 years.
I get it. I totally get it.
It's been a long 8 years.
Sammy wants to hear him yell, dig in.
Dig in.
And that's, to Patrick made the hardest working team. It's like, hey, Pat, you've been here 3 weeks. Don't tell that to the Leaf fan who's watched this for 8 or 9 years.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that.
This is now one of the hardest clubs you've ever seen when we've just eaten crap sandwiches in the last 9 or 10 years, right?
Treliving said it was the best, really good hard camp.
It was.
Again,
it was.
Hard
but
camp.
So what?
I know.
Everybody wants to say that. Nobody cares. Nothing's won
It'll be a real
in 3
concern.
weeks of really hard drills and, some success in preseason games. Like, nobody gives a crap.
I wonder if any team has said they had a bad camp.
That's what I was going to say. Like,
Have we heard from any team that was like,
But
your GM comes out,
you're right.
our camp was soft.
Edmonton had a bad camp, though. They sucked in their games.
Like, the only thing that matters now is, do you have the look that is ready to challenge?
They have the hardness.
So the biggest clubs. And that's not getting answered in training camp. That's not getting answered in the first few weeks. This is just going to be a test of time right now. Mm-hmm. But you gotta keep your powder dry a little bit on Matthews, and you got to back off a little bit here on expectations that all of a sudden he's going to become, the second coming of Marc Messier. It's not happening.
I understand that, but the whole reason that a general manager comes out and talks to the media is to get a message across to the fans and to kind of tell them what people are feeling. Like, that's the reason you do it. That's what it's for. And for him to be like, we just want him to be the same. It's not exactly what I wanted to hear. It's not exactly what I wanted to hear.
I'm
you're
sorry
right.
that it wasn't what you wanted, but I think that's the best that you can do there.
And
listen, you're 7-3 or 3-7 will speaks volumes to
if they're 3-7,
more and 7, more the same, right?
3-7.
But
the show's gonna be dark.
I'm just saying, though, that's the proof that things are changing, or that it looks like it's more of Matthews' team.
All good.
That's all.
Hey, listen, and I could be just coming up with something for no reason that just rubbed me the wrong way.
He doesn't have to completely look like he's the man.
I want him to.
End of November.
I want him to. He's the captain of the Leafs. They stripped Tavares of the C. I want him to look like the man. That's the point of this.
You can't snap your fingers and just have it.
Then why make him the captain?
What do you guys think?
Doesn't work that way. I'm just telling you, it's fine that you can say it, but it doesn't work that way.
I know.
So, there's 19 other guys going, okay, like, let's see, does he change? Is he now going to come in here and think he's something that he's not? Is he a rah-rah guy? Is he telling me what to do? Is he I
know you can't
They're
do
all
that.
judging him, too. The teammates are all sitting there going, did you change?
Yep.
Are you still the same guy?
I get it.
I have great regrets about getting a letter in college and acting like a different person.
Really?
People can tell it's inauthentic. It didn't work. It was a bad year for me.
You in the coach's office a lot more now. What are you saying? Like, he's got to...
Got to walk the line.
He's got to be careful.
Yeah.
Right? His alliance is to the teammates first.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily even the coach or the general manager. It's the teammates. As long as you got 19 other guys that believe in you and trust you, he's got to learn how to get their trust now with a letter C on his jersey, not an A.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't come overnight.
Okay.
So, and he's not... He doesn't appear to me being a rah-rah guy, and he's not even a guy that kind of brings the guys together off ice. He's not that guy either. He's not an organizer. He's not that guy. Mitch Marner's more that guy. Mitch Marner's more that guy. I think it was McCabe who made a comment, I think, about Mitch Marner saying, like, that's the guy that keeps us together. And it wasn't John Tavares either.
Right.
And it wasn't Austin. It was Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
So, all of a sudden now is Matthews now organizing Monday Night Football pools and, no. Somebody's going to call him out on that.
They need Kerfoot back for that. He was a fantasy football guy.
It's tricky. It's tricky. He's got to sit there and go, I got to look different enough so guys like Sammy don't go on the real Kyper and Bourne show and say, nothing's changed.
I'm a fan. I'm a Dumbo fan. It's the reason I'm here. It's like the perception is he's the captain now. And he's the guy who runs
between
it all.
Sammy and the guys watching you, he's going to have to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think Tree got it right. You know, no pressure on
The
him.
other thing, too, is, again, you can, if you're John Tavares right now, deep down, he's pissed. Come on, how can you not? It's your pride. It's like, that's the other challenge, too, is, you know, he has to now, you can go to a press conference in the summer and look great and say all the right things and play the high road and classy and, you know, wow. But now he's got to carry that. He's got to carry energy that, you know, I got stripped of my captaincy, but I'm still coming to the work every day with a smile on my face. I'm doing whatever. He's got a challenge too.
But Kip, so many of these conversations that we have, I feel like you have these guys in competition with one another. They're teammates. Like, he wants to win the Stanley Cup with Matthews, who should do well. I'm sure Matthews wants Marner to do well, and Marner wants I don't think they see it like you see it as this Hunger Games of who's the coolest guy. It's like, are they not a united group?
But there's always egos. There's always guys that look at the game sheet and go, I should have played more than that guy. And
surely they've all got enough individual money, time, whatever, that they can say, it's better for all of us if we all just go have success.
I know, but what does that mean? Like, I still need to have success. Like, if Tavares all of a sudden became a healthy scratch and the team's winning, like, how happy do you think John Tavares is going to be?
Yeah, I think there's a difference between a healthy scratch and he's playing 14 minutes a night.
14
he
minutes.
gets 40 points and they win the cup.
Now all
I
of a
think he
sudden, he's off the power play and Pacioretty's on the power play.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm here to win. No.
We should go. We got to get a Ralphie.
No. That's not the way guys work.
So
that's not the way guys work.
I think
That's not the way they're built.
Career, they come
it's
here
not
for
the way they're
league
built.
minimum because they are willing to accept less for the team.
To a certain point, but their egos are always involved, and you always think that, you know, I can help the team. No, you can cheerlead right now. We just need you to cheerlead. And you're like, well, do I really want to win now just being a cheerleader?
Yeah.
Like, so it's that balance.
Yeah.
It's part of that chemistry. It's part of the vibe. All right, let's take a quick break, and we return. Jim Ralph, Toronto Maple Leaf Radio color analyst. We'll ask him. We'll get into this with him, too. We'll get his thoughts.
Love it.
More Real Kyper and Bourne after the break. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. A few minutes. Jim Ralph. Back again for another exciting season with Joe Bowen.
Amazing. What a duo. St. Louis had a goal waved off already.
This would be his 58th or 59th year.
Is it really? That's a great run. Here's to another 58
Ralphie,
or 59 more.
Is it true you and Bonesy started when you were 11 calling Leaf games?
Well, if I was 11, he was 46. Yeah, it was actually. You know what's funny, and I don't mean to be an idiot to bring this up. The first game I ever did was a preseason game in '96. Leafs in New York against the Rangers. Do you remember that one, Kip?
Okay.
Leafs in New York against the Rangers, 96.
No clue. No, don't remember.
Preseason game? No.
Should he? Did something happen?
Something happened? Did I score?
No, I don't think you finished.
Oh gosh, are you kidding me? My knockout with Ryan Vandenbush?
Yep.
How was your call on it? He's dead.
Yeah.
He's dead. Bonesy, he's not moving.
Honest
that was your
though,
first game?
I don't say that to be an idiot, but that's the first game I filled in a couple of times with Joe, and then in '97, took over full time. But that was, honest to God, the first game was Madison Square Garden, which was pretty neat.
Well, I wanted to make it memorable for you, and clearly I've done that.
Kip, how long after that were you in media? Like, when would you have gotten hired to work a media job?
12.
Like a year.
It took 8 months. I had the job, I think.
Yeah.
I think I got a Sportsnet job by March, and it was still debatable whether or not I was going to be foolish enough to try to play again.
So you and Ralphie have basically been in media for the same amount of time.
Oh, God, that's so depressing.
No, Borny. I started at Global in 1990.
Yeah.
At where?
Yes.
Yeah.
Global.
Global. It was Sportsline, and it was the OHL game of the week.
But he had been
Gotcha.
speaking. He'd been doing guest speaking, making everybody laugh hysterically. Charity events and
Stand-up routine.
stand-up routine. So
Like
he
his
was
son?
he was so primed for stardom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still waiting, but any day now.
Well, listen, I'm glad I'm here talking to you right now. I can assure you that. How was the summer from afar, watching the changes that the Leafs made? The blue line, bigger, stronger, deeper. You like the moves that they've made to now challenge in the East?
Yeah, and you know what? I like, bringing in Bertuzzi and Domi a year ago. But, unfortunately, and it's going to be done to death until we get to, hopefully the postseason in April, that it's not what they're going to be judged on. And, it's kind of like sitting through Gone with the Wind with 7 different alternate endings. And so far you don't like any of them. So we're going to do it again. And, so that, ultimately it's going to be, is this team built for a run in the postseason? And, I like the moves they made. I like the moves that Brad Treliving made at the deadline last year, bringing in Joel Edmondson and, a little more toughness and grit. But, it's that bugaboo in April that they've got to find a way to get through. But having said that, you still have to get to the postseason. And, you expect Buffalo to be better, even though not off to a great start. Jersey should be better. In Detroit and Ottawa, I think they should be closer to making the postseason as well. So they still have to look after their business in the regular season. And then you hope that everybody's healthy and, this chemistry grows from tomorrow night on.
So, Ralphie, everyone talks about where, teams who are outside of the playoffs at U.S. Thanksgiving, which is kind of end of November, just a loose proxy for that time of year. Once you're 5-6 weeks into the season, things start to take shape. What are your expectations between now and that time for this Maple Leafs team as they adjust to Berube's system and have some new players on the roster?
Yeah, you know what, Barney? I think we should be maybe prepared for a little bit of a reset. That it would be great to come out, 8-2 in your first 10 games, but there might be some adjustments that the players are going to have to play through, where you might give up a little offense to play tougher, heavier in your own end. Craig Berube, I know after the first preseason game, said we were too cute with the puck. We got to just get it to the net, and that's a different philosophy than looking for the perfect play and the perfect look. Try to create offense. So there might be, some hiccups as you go along and, a bit of a learning curve. Hopefully the talent's there to be able to pull you through any kind of, disastrous start. But I think we will probably be smart to be a little bit patient to see how this all works out.
We're talking to Jim Ralph, Toronto Maple Leaf radio color analyst. So just touching on that a little bit, Ralphie, we know the world-class skill is there enough to have seen in the past on occasion and many occasions that they can make the perfect play, right? And
Yeah,
I'm just wondering where that fine line is on what maybe the rope that a Nylander or a Marner, a Matthews can have compared to the rest of the team, or if you're Craig Berube, do you need those guys as an example as well, or, different rules for different guys?
I still think it's a philosophy, Kyper. Obviously you're not going to tell Mitch Marner to shoot every time he's got a 2-on-1. But I do think it might be more that, take somebody like Matthew Knies, play the Hyman role. Like, go to the net, set up, take somebody with you, and score 50 goals from 3 feet outside the crease. I think that's where the philosophy might change a little bit. Not so much, with the star players or trying to curtail them or, modify their games. But if you're on those lines, I think Zach Hyman was the perfect example of, play played big and tough, which, Matthew and I put on, I think, 10, 15 pounds in the summer. And be more like that. Go to the net and score ugly. Whether it's a rebound or a redirection or provide a screen. And I think when you look over the last few years with the Leafs, they don't score a lot of goals from the point where there's traffic in front. And I just think that could be a nice addition, something to add that other teams can watch for, as opposed to, trying to pass it around the box and look for those perfect opportunities.
The Leafs are like bottom 5 in goals from their D for a while now. It is going to be fascinating to see if they can get a bit better there. Another place they're going to get better is your area of expertise. And I should say going to get better. Who knows? What are your thoughts on, it's not Jack Campbell. It's not Ilya Samsonov. We're looking at Woll and Stolarz. What are your thoughts going into the season for these two big fellas?
I'm going to say that I like this makeup or this tandem probably the most since Eddie Belfour, and that's in due respect to James Reimer, who had some great runs. But as far as a duo goes, I think this is the best they've had. Now, obviously, one of the big concerns is I think Stolarz, the most he's played in the season is 27 with Anaheim a few years ago. Woll's only played 25 games in a season. So even if they were to split it down the middle, both of them are going to have to play considerably more than they have in their careers to this point. So that's one thing you might have a concern with. But I think the great thing is, Woll's going tomorrow in Montreal, and Stolarz is going to play on Thursday in Jersey. So I think it's the perfect scenario where we don't have to create some sort of goaltending controversy early on. I think they're both capable, and really the big thing is to have them both healthy.
Ralphie, we had a pretty healthy conversation about Austin Matthews and the captaincy. We heard from his general manager, Brad Treliving, on maybe not so much looking much different than we've seen out of him in the past, but we know since the moment he first put on a Leaf uniform, he has been the leader at putting the puck in the net. But what other look could you see coming this season with a C on his jersey?
Depression. And obviously, I say that tongue in cheek, but the one thing I've noticed about John Tavares in preseason, whether it's the interviews or watching him on the ice, it looks as though he's had a piano taken off his back. He seems much more relaxed, much more refreshed. And, Austin Matthews has been in the market long enough to know what's coming. But it is, I think, as opposed to so many other markets, it is an added responsibility, if for nothing else, in dealing with the media on a regular basis. And I don't want to jinx this, but I remember in, I guess it was 97, Matt Sundin's first year as captain. Took 7 or 8 games for Sundin to score his first goal. And, of course, after the first few games, everybody said, he can't handle the pressure. And, that he was pressing, and then it became a bigger story each game he didn't score. The pressure of being a captain. So, you certainly, I don't know if Matthews will start with back-to-back hat-tricks like he did a year ago, but hopefully he gets one in the first couple of games to kind of get rid of any kind of narrative of the pressure that goes with it.
And thinking back, it's funny you say that like the weight has been lifted off Tavares and that Matthews is going to have to talk to the media more. Like, was Tavares talking to the media? Did I miss an interview? Did we just not play it because there was nothing?
He talked every day, but there's never one thing.
There was just we didn't clip it on the show because there was nothing of.
Never a thing.
Okay. Do you think Morgan Riley? Go ahead, Kyper. You say something. Do you think Morgan Riley is also going to be freed up a little bit now that he has Tanev, someone who can handle the defensive side of things once they're on the ice?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you go back to the Morgan Riley's best defensive year. It came playing with Ron Hainsey. Mm-hmm. There's, your stay-at-home, miserable defense partner that, makes things difficult on the opposition. And, that Tanev's probably, a lot like Ron Hainsey with just a little more anger in him. So I think absolutely it'll help Morgan Riley. I mean, you may not see a 20-goal season from him again in his career, but I definitely think Morgan Riley's going to benefit from it.
Listen, everybody knows the situation with Mitch Marner going into this season, much like Willie Nylander, a lot of question marks going into the season. You expect it to play out somewhat like Nylander's situation last year, where the better he plays, the more pressure it puts on the Leafs to sign him. And, could there be a contract mid-season like we saw with Nylander last season?
Yeah, I think so. And, the bottom line is you don't want him walking for nothing. I don't think you want to be getting geared up in the playoffs and say, boy, is it better to let him go now? Brad Treliving had to go through that with Matthew Tkachuk. When they cleaned house in Calgary, Matthew Tkachuk wanted out. It's a difficult situation for everyone to be in. But I could see Marner having, maybe the best start in years and putting that kind of pressure on. And the bottom line is, for the people that are saying, you got to move him, you got to get rid of him.
Yeah. No doubt about that. Mercedes, a lovely vehicle.
I can get you a deal. I can get you a good deal on a Benz.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't know who you have me driving, but I'll take it.
Hey, terrific stuff, Ralphie. Thanks for doing this. Looking forward to your call tomorrow night and many more throughout the season. Thanks for doing this.
All right. Thanks, Skipper. Thanks, Bourne.
Thanks, Ralphie. Appreciate you.
Toronto Maple Leaf Radio analyst, Jimmy Ralph.
You know what's new about the show this year is we have hunting on the TV beside in the room this year. Just a lot of murder happening.
So
has that been on?
I didn't know there's a
channel.
Yeah, I didn't know there's a channel where you just watch people shoot deer, but there is.
So before last week,
Kevin Barker's in here.
Last week it was the baseball games that were on.
Yeah.
So that's equally distracting for me because I love baseball playoffs and I don't want that, to be honest. I don't want to be on here.
Yeah.
But we've done the exact same rotation 2 days in a row. It was MLB Network, and the exact same time now the Sportsman channel comes on. And now they're chopping up some onions and
cooking venison.
That looks pretty good.
It does.
So we're in our second week here. And I didn't give out a shout out to Kevin Barker. Of course, Barks and Jeff Blair do the baseball and the Blue Jays.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody better.
My favorite show.
But we've got new chairs here.
Oh yeah.
Right?
They are.
And I'm just having like a blast with these new chairs. And it's come to, our attention that Barks actually wanted new chairs and got them. But
did he
had to put them together himself.
He assembled them?
He assembled them himself.
Do you think if I had been tasked with doing that, we'd still be upright? I don't think so. I think he's a little handier with a wrench than I am.
And for me, I'm always ending up with like 4 extra pieces going.
That's how you do it.
Like, I missed something. I got to start over again.
I don't think these are IKEA. These are nice.
They're nice.
They're really nice. Thanks, Barks. Yeah. Okay. That concludes our Leaf Edition hour. Thank God, because we're ready. Like, they got to play.
We need a nice hockey match.
They got to play.
We're doing another full hour tomorrow, no game.
Are we?
Oh, yeah.
I know, but that kind of
preview. We'll know the lines.
Game day, baby.
We'll have prep to do, a preview to do.
It's game time.
All right. We go national next on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Do not go away. Back after these words. It's the National Hour, Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour, Real Kyper and Bourne, brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. We kick off the National Hockey League tonight on this side of North America. Mm-hmm. Little over 5 minutes to go in the first period. The Blues and the Kraken. Then at 7 p.m., the Bruins and the Panthers. Uh-huh. And then to conclude a triple header tonight, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Utah Hockey Club, not to be confused with the Utah Golf Club, the Utah Bridge Club, the Utah Chess Club.
The Utah, give me a name already. How about that?
Utah Debate Club.
Blues Kraken 0-0 in a hotly contested battle.
Of mid.
The middiest.
Seattle Kraken making history. The Kraken making history tonight with
Jessica Campbell.
Jessica Campbell, first female
woman ever to coach on an NHL bench today. Congratulations to her. A very cool milestone, and first of many, I would assume.
You know what I'm really excited for by far the most out of everything is to watch Bedard play tonight.
Yeah.
Feel like it's going to be.
Are you looking forward to him handing the puck off to Ilya Mikheyev, who beats it into a square at 1,000,000 miles an hour?
That's not the greatest line mate for Bedard.
It's Mikheyev, Teravainen, and Bedard right now, which love that he has guys that can move the puck forward, and Teravainen's all right.
Few minutes, we're going to be joined by Satiar Shah, host of Canucks Central, Canucks game host for Sportsnet. We'll get into the Vancouver Canucks and following up success, albeit to start the season without their number one goalie in Demko.
Yeah, and I also have to offer a mea culpa because yesterday I called Tucker Pullman a serviceable demon, which he was, but forgetting that he did not play hockey last season.
But he could be.
He
could be.
He could be, and he has been, but last season.
Also later on in the hour, Dominic Moore, former NHL veteran, Rangers, Leafs. He'll join us, and we'll get a better feel for what's going on in Utah.
He's a busy guy today. He was texting me. He's like, I'm running around. Of course
he is.
But then he said he's like anything for Kyper. So, loves you.
Awesome. Looking forward to Dom joining us. So, while we wait for Sat, just your overall feeling, and we'll get it from him more. But, like, I'm petrified for Vancouver Canuck fans with this knee injury to Thatcher Demko.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm like, this is.
You don't like Shelov's Lankinen?
No, Shelov's has had a great camp, and I think these guys will do a good job of holding the fort here. But like, if we're talking about a Vancouver Canuck team that has to go or wants to go deep, they have to have Demko back at some point.
Yeah.
And just how optimistic is everybody that whatever he's going through can get fixed?
Yeah, that obviously hangs over the season, but they have time for that because, as you mentioned, this is like they have graduated as a franchise to now playoffs is the focus, and how can they get ready for then as long as they're winning enough games. And guys, they're gonna. Quinn Hughes, Phil Peronic, Susie Myers, Forbort Desharnais, pretty darn good. Top end guys with Miller and Besser and Pettersson, DeBrusque. Like, they're still, this is a pretty elite hockey team. So I understand Demko's a concern. They're going to win enough to get in. He just needs to be ready for then.
Big year for Pettersson. This is the first year the contract kicks in. Remember what happened with the narrative around him, the playoff time last year where it just went really sour. Got a new line mate, and I would assume that him and DeBrusque are going to be playing together.
They are, with Sprong, it looks like.
Big year for Pettersson.
I think last year set him up as he's a lightning rod. He's turned himself into a lightning rod.
But he's Vancouver Marner. He is the talented, well-paid, bit of a letdown in the playoffs, center of attention where people love him, some hate him. He's obviously great. 90,
100 points, don't matter. Right? We're just gonna. You're the expectations are incredibly high for Petey.
Well, good news. We have someone to weigh in on this.
All right, let's bring him in. Sat Shah, what's going on, buddy?
What's happening, boys?
Good.
Excited, man. Hockey begins today, and tomorrow the Canucks start. It's another long season. Can't wait.
Everybody tired of training camp out there as much as us here?
Oh, yeah, man. Totally over training camp, and especially after last year where the Canucks had a bit of a playoff run, go a couple of rounds, so it took kind of less importance in the preseason. I mean, the past few years, the preseason would have been maybe the most optimistic time to be a Canucks fan because you hadn't played game one yet. You hadn't seen the failures quite yet, and things didn't turn around. So now it's kind of shifted. You just want to get through the preseason. So very excited for tomorrow.
So knowing the success that the team had last season, what has changed in terms of your expectations for this group at the start of the season?
Well, I think I don't really care so much about winning the division. I think what you want to see from this team is to be a solid playoff team for the majority of the season. And the real challenge begins come playoff time. I think they've got to the point now where just get to the playoffs, be healthy, and then it comes down to can you get past the second round? And maybe that's asking a lot for a team that finally made the playoffs for the first time since the bubble season in 2019, 2020. But I think with where this roster is at, with a lot of these young guys being in their prime, JT hitting the age 31 season, Demko, we're not sure about his status, a couple of years left on his contract. You never know how big a window is and how long it's going to last. And when you look at the relative strength of the West and the entire National Hockey League, it's as good a chance as the Canucks may have over the next few years. So I think the expectation should be at least get past the first round again, and hopefully maybe even go a bit farther.
So, Sat, the feel of not so much worrying about winning a division, just getting in, and certainly maybe a weaker Pacific still with the likes of Ducks and Sharks and Anaheim shouldn't be that big of a concern. But is it led because Demko's not there to start? Does that alleviate the push to be great every night and just to build something over 82 games because Demko isn't there and we don't know when he'll return?
Mm-hmm. Well, and then when he returns, what is it going to look like, right? And how long is he going to be able to stay in the lineup, and what level can he play at? That's the other question of when he does return. So even when he returns, Kyper, I'm with you. I think we have to wait a few weeks to a couple of months to really know where he's at. It's an injury that not many goaltenders or any goaltenders have a history of having gone through. So we don't know what he's going to go through and what the recovery looks like, especially after some wear and tear. And maybe he plays, 2-3 games in a week. How does that look the following week? Those are all questions that are unanswered. And I think in terms of expectations, perhaps, it takes away some of that pressure. But I do think organizationally, they have very high standards. I mean, me from the media sitting here and saying, whether you win the division or not, or just make the playoffs, I think organizationally, not to say that it matters that they win the division, but I think they want to even best last year if possible. So I think that's how they view it. So I'm not sure they're going to internally use it as an excuse, because they have shored up the goaltending, at least short term, getting Lankinen, having Stolarz, who showed some promise last year. So I think they're not going to necessarily buy that even with Demko out, we'll be okay if we don't win the division. I think their standards are very high. But in terms of what this team is going to look like come playoff time or later in the season, the goaltending is a big question. Whether it's Demko or Stolarz and Lankinen, can they actually hold it down until Demko gets healthy?
So what is this? We don't care if they win the division stuff. They had 10 points last year. Is this like hey, Edmonton is probably going to run away with this and that's okay sort of talk?
I think partially, but I think when you look at teams that have success, I don't think winning the division is a prerequisite necessarily to having playoff success. So I think as long as you show that you're a complete team, and if a team gets 112 points, you get 108. Is that a failure? So I think that's kind of the way I view it too, in terms of what the division looks like. And I'm with you about Edmonton, but one team I'm really curious about in the regular season, guys, in the Pacific is the Vegas Golden Knights. I know they don't have the firepower that they lost with Marchessault and not having Stevenson, but they're a highly motivated group. Their defense is still as good or better than most teams in the league. They have a lot of depth. Their goaltending should be solid, and they play as good a team game as most teams in the league. I wouldn't be surprised if that team is just uber motivated this year and has a great regular season. I have questions about how far they can go in the playoffs, but in terms of motivation, in terms of style of play, and in terms of having a strong defense and two-way game, I think this is a really strong team that's being slept on. It wouldn't shock me at all, guys. I'm not sure I'm going to pick Vegas to win the division, but it wouldn't shock me at all if they end up winning the division. I'm not sure they're going to win a cup, but I can see them being a strong regular season team.
So, Sad, as far as the blue line is concerned, Hughes and Roenick, as good as any pair in the National Hockey League last year. Carson Soucy, almost as reliable to Vancouver as Ekholm was to Edmonton. He's really stepped up. And then I'm not sure where the next 3 or 4 guys are situated here. They got Tyler Myers, who's 34 now, I guess. Is he situated still to be a legit top 4 guy? And then Desharnais and Forbort, it just seemed like Zadorov built something so incredible last year. Is there a letdown too when it comes to maybe 5 and 6 now as a third pair?
Well, on paper, you're right, Kyper. I mean, the third pair is not as strong as the one we saw in the postseason. With having Zadorov, they had Ian Cole as well, who I think was very underrated with his defensive play, really good on the PK, great leadership as well. And even though he's more stay-at-home, one thing Ian Cole does really well is make that first pass. He has a nice deception till he moves the puck out of his own end. And it's slightly better than what guys like Desharnais and Forbort can do. So just from even a puck-moving standpoint, that's one thing I wonder about. On the PK, both those guys should be fine. So I don't worry about Forbort and Desharnais in terms of helping the PK out. But last year was a bit of a renaissance year from Tyler Myers. Had 29 points. He played legitimate top 4 minutes, and he acquitted himself very well. Him and Soucy made a great pair. But we haven't seen Myers in Vancouver put together back-to-back years of that type of caliber, and that's going to be something to watch. And the question, I think, all year in terms of the roster skater-wise, beyond the goaltending, is going to be, do they need another top four defenseman at some point in time this season? The forward group, I think you feel pretty good about how they're shaped out. They have some internal options for center, too, if injuries happen or they need somebody to play a checking role. But they don't really have anybody knocking on the door that's ready today to play top 4 minutes. So if Desharnais and Forbort, they kind of struggle in their roles 5-on-5. Their puck movement's going to be a bit lackluster. I think at some point this year, guys, we're going to see Patrick Galvin add another defenseman. They have some cap space. They have some capital to move if they need to acquire one. And they're a team that is very aggressive. And I think that's going to be the big thing to watch. I wouldn't be surprised that by the deadline, the Canucks are in the hunt for a top 4 defenseman.
So they've made a couple additions up front. How do those names affect, Danton Heinen, Jake DeBrusk? How much do they affect the way the Canucks look this season?
I think they make a big difference in terms of how they want to play stylistically. They're not going to change their identity as a team. I think what they want to do is create some more rush chances, which will perhaps create a few more chances the skaters will take. But what they want is just to have faster players in the wing. I think last year, one of the things you saw, especially when a guy like Hugh Suter or Phil Giuseppe was playing alongside Besser and JT Miller, that first forward in, not a ton of pop on the wings. You didn't see enough speed to get in on the forecheck and put so much pressure on JT to do everything. And he did. I mean, he was incredible. And Besser scored 40 goals. We saw it in the playoffs. That pace wasn't quite there. There were so many pucks that if they had a faster winger, they would have got to. It would have led to more zone time, more pressure on the opposition. So I think with Heinen, especially if he does start there with JT and Besser, at least it looks like he will, I think he's going to be a real nice addition, a bit faster, a bit bigger, a good forechecker, can play off JT. I think what he allows for JT as well, when JT's been on his best playing center, he has another center next to him that he can kind of change with, because JT loves going along the wall. So if he has confidence that he's playing with a winger who can play center, he can cover the middle for him. And I think you're going to see a lot better version of JT. Whereas last year, I think he kind of held himself back a lot because he didn't want to, expose themselves going back the other way. So I can see that line really being affected by it, but especially the top line. Having Jake DeBrusk, I think he could be similar to Mikheyev with his all-around game. Obviously, Mikheyev is a bit faster, but he's a finisher. There's so many chances last year that Ilya Mikheyev just couldn't put in the net. And we're talking about he could have scored easily 10, 15 more goals and just didn't have the finish to put them in. DeBrusk is going to have that. And then you add the fact that you have a guy like Daniel Sprong has some pace. You have Kyper Sherwood, he has some pace. So they have all these different types of forwards that can play the F1 role, they can forecheck, they can score a little bit. So I think they could be far more dynamic in their style of play this year, especially with how Tocchet wants them to play.
Daniel Sprong, I think, will be in a situation where we'll see him with Petey and DeBrusk. Heinen as well is a guy that I've liked over the years as a serviceable player, but now we're talking top 6 for both of them on a team that's supposed to make some noise here. So, I mean, how's their camps been? And, is that legit? Are those legit spots for them?
Yeah, I think DeBrusk has the bigger responsibility. I mean, when you're giving the guy a 7-year contract worth almost $40 million, there's an expectation he's going to be more than a third guy in a line. I think they're hoping that him and Pettersson really have some chemistry. And one thing to keep in mind with DeBrusk, if it doesn't work with Pettersson, he could be an ideal line mate for Brock Besser and JT Miller. Like, he's the perfect F1 left winger to play alongside those two guys. So that's one thing I wonder about. If DeBrusk doesn't quite pop with Pettersson, is that going to be another look we see here? But the expectation for DeBrusk is, can he become a 30-goal scorer consistently? That's what they're paying him for. That's what they want to get out of him. So I think the expectation should be that he can pop and be a legit top 6. I think Heinen's a bit more different in terms of, yes, he's playing a top 6 role, but he's very much going to be the third guy in a line, which is going to be more of doing the dirty work. And I think in general, when we look at a lot of these teams around the league, they look for the duos, and the third guy is a bit more interchangeable. I think in an ideal world, Heinen's maybe a more third line caliber player, but I think in terms of the role he's going to play alongside JT and Besser, it makes sense. And I'm hopeful he can execute it, because he is better than some guys they've thrown out there the past couple of years on that line.
Sat, what is Rick Tocchet's fascinating guy for me? Love hearing him in interviews. What has been his focus this camp? Is there something he seems most preoccupied with?
Well, it's been the breakouts. They want to create more rush opportunities this year, and they're going to be a lot more aggressive, I think, attacking on the weak side and even in their own zone when they're set up in the opposite zone. They've been activating the trailer a lot, coming in from the weak side as well. They're trying to create that backdoor play. So I think we're going to see a team that's going to try to be a lot more aggressive on the rush. And also in terms of when they're set up in the offensive zone, they're going to have their defense jump in a lot more. So don't be surprised to see guys like Carson Soucy or even guys like Desharnais being asked to load up and chip in going weak side. So that's something to watch. But overall, it's how they're going to handle their breakouts. One thing that Talkett spoke a lot about last year, especially in the playoffs, was they didn't hold on to pucks long enough and they didn't trust each other enough to make plays getting out of the zone. It was more about dumping the puck out, get it off the glass, or just dump it in. And he wants guys to make more plays. So it might be a bit of an awkward phase early on as they try to figure this stuff out. Are we going to see them get a bit too spaced from one another? Are they going to get caught from time to time as they try to perfect creating some more rush opportunities? But that's the biggest thing stylistically that's different this year from last year, is the emphasis on creating more in the offensive zone and also creating more off the rush.
In terms of pending UFAs next June here in Toronto, a lot of focus on Marner, but I don't know if you guys got a look at the list, with the potential list. There's some big names out there. Rantanen, Hall, still a very good player, and Brock Besser. So it's been fascinating watching Brock Besser go from a guy a few years ago to, hey, go find yourself a deal and come back to us, to a 40-goal scorer. And where's his scenario? Where's his situation? Where's the concern for a Vancouver Canuck fan?
Well, I think for the Canucks, if they want to keep him. We had Alvin on our show yesterday on Canucks Central, and I asked them, are you going to have a resolution one way or another by the deadline with Brock Besser? And he said, yes, we're going to have a resolution. And I thought it was interesting. He didn't say, hey, we'll see what happens. We don't have to sign him this year. We can wait for the offseason. I think he's too important a player to allow him to just walk in free agency for them. So I think they are going to get a resolution one way or another. I think ultimately the appetite is to keep him. And as you mentioned, Kyper, there are some nice free agents, but how many of those guys are truly going to get there? And if you don't end up keeping Brock Besser, how do you replace a 30, 40 goal scorer that's a right-handed shot? They're so hard to find in the league, especially a guy in that 28, 29 age range who's going to be in this prime of his career. I see them ultimately working something out here. And the biggest thing they're waiting for is, what is Besser going to look like this year coming off the blood clot issue? And it's not a life-threatening issue in that sense, but there are minor things that he's going to have to adjust this year. So because of the clotting issue, he can't sleep on the plane anymore. So he's going to have to get up and move more. So in terms of road trips and how he handles rest and recovery, it's going to be different. So things like this, I think we have to kind of keep an eye on for the first part of the season. How is he going to adjust? Are we going to see a player that can be effective at home and on the road? And then what is he going to look like in terms of his all-around game? And as long as he hits those markers and looks good, I think they're going to talk contract a couple months into the season. It wouldn't shock me at all that they get something done with him, before the trade deadline. But I think the biggest thing is, what does Brock look like? And as much as there's no long-term concern about his health, he does have to deal with some issues now. And how is he going to be able to succeed while adjusting some of his lifestyle?
So last one from me. I wrote an article, 2-sentence expectations for every team in the NHL. I think it's important to set that sort of parameter. So, at Christmas, we're like, all right, we kind of thought they'd be struggling, so it's no big deal, or the opposite. Canucks, who do you have in the West that you like more than the Canucks, just to get a sense of how highly rated you have this team?
I'm pretty high on the team. The only team I think is obviously in a different tier is Edmonton. Because if I compare the rosters, and I've gone through every single roster so many different times, the Western Conference and the entire National Hockey League for that matter. But even a team like Dallas, as good as Dallas is, they still lost Pavelski. And a lot of it comes down to Maverick Bourque this year, Logan Stankoven. And we know with young guys, as much as they have potential, it's not always linear year to year. So are they going to be able to replace Pavelski, his production and his consistency in that type of role? That's one thing I wonder about. And their blue line, for as much as they had a strong blue line at the deadline with getting Chris Tanev, they got guys like Brendan Smith right now, right? They have guys like Lyubushkin and Matt Dumba that they're asking a lot from. And as good as their goaltending is, Casey Smith is an adequate backup. But I have some questions about Dallas. I don't know if I could put Dallas in a separate tier from Vancouver. So to me, there's only one obviously better team. But then that next tier, guys, Vancouver, Dallas, say Nashville even, there's probably 4 or 5 teams that are in the exact same tier that I can't say are better than Vancouver, but they're pretty much on par.
And how's our buddy Talk out there? Relaxed? Is he feeling good, ready? Big year under his belt now. How's he treating you?
I mean, Talk's the best, honestly. I mean, he's one of those guys that, PR has to pull him away when you talk to him to the side, right? Like, he loves talking hockey. I've never met a coach before that is so beloved across the league. Like, every single person we talk to, it's a running joke on the show now. Like, so what's your story with Rick Tocchet? Oh yeah, Tocchet's my buddy. Like, every single person we talk to has some Tocchet story in the National Hockey League, it seems like. And he's just such a personable guy that you're so easy to kind of approach and talk to. Like, I had some questions about the breakouts, and I pulled him to the side in training camp, and he gave me 5-10 minutes explaining what they were looking to do. And he's so like geeked up talking about these little things.
Yeah.
So he's honestly like a massive hockey nerd, and for us,
We should
hockey
get him on the
nerds,
show.
that's the perfect guy to have a coach.
Yeah.
How great for Vancouver Canucks they go from Gabby Boudreau to Rick Tocchet.
Yeah. And meanwhile, we went from Sheldon Keefe to Charlie Chaplin. We're dying, Sat. We're dying.
Hey, don't steal Tocchet in a couple of years. That's the only thing you guys shouldn't be doing. But yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll do our best.
Sat, great stuff, man. Hope you have a great start to the season. Thanks for doing this, and looking forward to you on our show throughout the season, man.
Yeah, can't wait, guys. Thanks so much. Have a great one.
Thanks, Sat. Appreciate it.
Sat Shah, host of Canucks Central, Canucks game host for Sportsnet as well. Yeah, Sam, come on, get Rick Tocchet on our show.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I'll do my best.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I need to call?
Listen, we'll talk about that one. We'll put a pin in that. Let's circle back on that one.
We'll get
Come back in the
Tocchet.
new year.
We'll circle back on that one.
He likes us, I think.
Yeah, he loves us. He used to come on the show all the time. He was
Sure
a
did.
great fan of the show. Yeah, that was good. That was a good chat with Sat.
Sat knows his stuff, man.
Yeah, he kind of talked me into the Canucks a little bit. I was a little bit worried about them, but you do look top to bottom, and
Well, and
looks
not
pretty
to
good.
be that guy, but like Calgary, Anaheim, San Jose are gonna hemorrhage points this year.
they all stink.
Yeah.
So you're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Here's your,
So, are they in a situation where they're trying to figure out who their first opponent is and all of that without Demko to start?
well, the Demko thing is,
I'd have a big concern
yeah.
about the knee and why it has not
Yeah. And
gotten
so
better.
I think you'll keep an eye on how Sheila's Lincoln look.
I'm not sure if he's still taking shots,
Yeah.
right? He's not practicing. I don't think he's
Brad May.
I don't think he's practicing with the team. So, it's not good.
No. Nope. So that is a big plot line there. Seattle and Los Angeles, the other two teams in that division. I don't think LA is that good. Seattle's better than they were, but pretty
Mid.
So
Game time?
game time.
It's game time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. I actually have a couple games to talk about here today. Looking at the Bruins and Florida Panthers, who are somehow playing in Florida tonight. And I don't know what's going on there.
Scary times in Florida.
Yeah,
Thoughts
really
are with
big
everyone
time.
there. Get somewhere safe.
But the Boston Bruins are plus 125 underdogs in Florida tonight, minus 150 if you want to bet on the Panthers. And in the Chicago Blackhawks are plus 145 against the Utah Hockey Club. And talking with the Blackhawks gives me a chance to talk about Connor Bedard. He is plus 175 for an anytime goal scorer tonight, plus 800 for the first goal scorer of that game. And his goal total on Bet365, the number is 34.5, even odds on both sides, minus 110 on the under, minus 110 on the over. I got to tell you. Up.
Okay. See,
are you going to whine about him playing too much tonight?
No, I'm not.
You sure?
Not. I just want to ask you guys one simple question. Okay.
Yeah.
How good is this guy going to be?
Really good.
Okay, what does that mean?
Like, he's going to be, by the end of this season, we're going to talk about him as a top 10 guy in the league.
You talking career peak?
Which is fine for me.
Okay.
But what does it mean when we hear generational player? Like, top 10 to me is nothing.
There's 9
I got to be honest with you. I'm not impressed. that, you tell me he's a top 10 player or he's going to be a top 10 player in the next few years. I want to know, what is his ceiling to be one of the greatest players in our modern history?
You're saying, can he be Sidney Crosby? Is that what you're saying?
Am I wrong to suggest that when everybody's told me this is a generational player?
No, that would be the player of your generation.
Okay. So, like, what does that mean? He's going to dominate games like Sid? Sid, when we think of historically a point guy, if we think about Sid's numbers are off the charts, but they didn't blow you away.
No.
He's
never been 150 point McDavid.
They're not 150, 170 like Mario's years or even McDavid's last few years. Like, is he
Sid's
one day
career high is 120 in his second season.
Is he a 90 to 120 a guy, career guy?
But that's a telltale thing. Sid's second season was his highest point total.
But every single year he has over 80.
So is that 06, 07 though, when all the stats went through the roof?
Yeah,
so my question to you is, will he ever score 150 points?
Yeah, I could see it.
You can see it?
I could see it. I could. Once he gets a little older, get some better teammates.
Yeah, but if he does it, it's going to be in the next 3 years. Yeah. It tends to be these young guys, superstars.
Will he dominate a game physically too, like a Sid Crosby?
No.
That's the thing with Sid is, I forget who's said it, but we've all been saying it for years now, is that he's just an elite grinder. Like he still does those grindy things that not many superstars do.
Can he take over a game?
Yeah, I think it's coming for Bedard. He's special.
I'm biased. I love him, and I'm super high on him, so I'm maybe the wrong guy to ask, but I think he's going to be a stud.
Guys who came into the league in terms of expectation, fame, whatever, it was Crosby and McDavid were equal in terms of like the level of whatever. Bedard might be like a layer just under that?
But the hype, he was right there with Connor and Sid, I think.
Was he?
Right there.
Right there.
Right there. And I'm just...
It's tough when you're 5'11",
I just
or whatever
wonder,
it is,
like,
and
I'm
Sid's
just
5'11".
projecting, and I don't... he's a very talented guy. I just don't know if he'll ever be in that kind of bracket.
Bedard's scoring 50 tonight. 50 tonight, to be a big
with Sid. Like, to me, the measuring stick is Sid.
Yeah, but who's like the fourth greatest player ever to own skates.
It's tough to live up to Sid. I mean, Sid's one of the best ever.
Generational players do that.
I think he goes above generational. He's one of the greatest of any generation.
I think Connor Bedard scores 100 points.
I think he's going to get 50 for sure.
50 goals?
Yep.
Okay.
Anyways, that was Game Time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay, we'll take a quick break. And when we return, we go to Utah. Meet up with Dom Moore.
Love it. Someone just tweeted there's a lot of obstructed view seats. A lot.
A lot. How many? We'll find out when we return. Dominic Moore. Next. Final hour here on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show, brought to you by Bet365. All right. Let's bring in Dom Moore, who's going to help us set history in the National Hockey League. The Utah Hockey Club set to host the Chicago Blackhawks. To tell us all about it is our good buddy, Dom Moore. Morsey, thanks for doing this, pal. How are you? Give us a sense what's going on out there.
Yeah, good to see you both. It is, I'm trying to get away from the music. There's a whole scene out here in front of Delta Center. We've got live music. We've got a whole bunch of games, a bunch of vendors out here. You can see we've got a giant Utah Hockey Club jersey and the NHL logo. There's a huge puck on the other side. There's a ton of buzz out here throughout the city and especially around the arena today. This is a historic day here in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, we're excited for you and many of the fans out there. One of the problems, I shouldn't say problems, but one of the challenges is there's going to be many fans with obstructed views because of the arena. No?
No, it's just...
I want to just ask you, is that a big deal here? Is it true that the owner will have sketch artists for those that can't see and maybe to get a sense of... So what is the situation in terms of the fans and the seats? Can I ask you?
So it's actually an incredible building. So it's one of the steepest buildings in the league, and the atmosphere in there is absolutely incredible. Honestly, I saw some of the obstructed view seats, particularly the ones behind the net. They have to be marked as obstructed view, but actually they're a phenomenal seat. If you actually sit in those seats, you just lean a little bit forward, you can see the net. It really is an incredible venue. It's amazing what they've been able to do to turn it into an NHL arena in such a short period of time. And obviously, over the long term, over the next 2 to 3 years, this place is going to be state of the art and built for both hockey and basketball. But it's a beautiful venue.
So how has it been? Because it's all come together so quickly. How temporary do things still feel, or does it feel like now that it's finally here, the roster's real, the building's real? Does it feel like this is real now?
There's nothing temporary about it. There certainly is a feel of building, because obviously there's such a short runway to get this operation up and running. So there's clearly an understanding that this is only the beginning. But there's certainly the word temporary doesn't exist around here. Everything that's being done is done for the long haul. And this organization has been 1,000% committed to doing things the right way, from the training center, that they've broken ground on in Sandy. That's going to be a world-class facility. To what I just mentioned, what they're doing here at Delta Center. Everyone that's been a part of the organization, from the players on out, has felt like they have been welcomed with open arms and brought in and set up as quickly as possible and seamlessly as possible to get things going.
We're talking to Dominic Moore, former National Hockey Leaguer, now TV analyst for the Utah Hockey Club. So, Dom, we know that the Coyotes were building something towards, the playoffs potentially. Now they're in Utah. The expectations for this hockey club, either internally or externally. We've seen the likes of Vegas come in, put pressure on their organization to win right away. Seattle's already feeling it in the first couple of years. Where is Utah from the outside or the inside on potentially moving to the next level?
Yeah, I think this team is ready to take a step. You look at what they did in the offseason, adding Sergachev. And again, that shows the commitment that starts at the top from Ryan and Ashley Smith. This is an organization that's committed to winning on and off the ice. And the addition of Sergachev, Bill Armstrong did a great job adding some defensemen that are tough to play against, good defenders like Ian Cole and John Marino, and Bortuzzo's in there with a veteran presence. They wanted to up the ante on the penalty kill. Kevin Stenlin, again, a utility guy that's been added that serves a role there. So I think they wanted to take a step here. I think, Kyper, the goal is to play some meaningful games down the stretch. And, that may not mean playoffs this year. But when you look at the talent they have up front, the Logan Cooley's and Gunthers of the world are just starting to blossom. And we already know what Keller and Schmaltz can do up front. And, Barrett Hayden hasn't had, a full year yet where he can gain that confidence. So I think the talent level up front is without question extremely bright. They're definitely going to be adding some things over the next year or two to build themselves into a contender. But they're in a really good position with the assets they have, the cap space they have. It's a good trajectory here.
Well, listen, we're really looking forward to tonight. We'll be right there watching that energy you speak of. Congratulations on the gig. We're going to have you back on the show real soon. Have a great season, pal.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you both.
Thanks, Dom. Appreciate it.
That is Dominic Moore covering the Utah Hockey Club. What?
This guy's at the inaugural kickoff. He's fired up. He's wearing a beautiful suit. He's got the... What's up with the obstructed views? You couldn't say that.
Ask the question.
For the second question.
You gotta ask the question.
The second question.
But no softballs on this show. I'm sorry.
Kip's on the mound calling for the number one.
Heater.
Just waving off curveballs.
I'm not doing a circle change.
We got a schedule to hit. Scram beat it. It's not that bad then. I mean, hey, lean in. Lean in, and all of a sudden you get another 20%.
Probably right. The seats drop right off. So if you have those seats, it's probably a great view. You just got to be built like Tyler Myers, and you're good to go. Just lean right over.
I'm looking at a tweet of the picture, and yeah, it's like you can see out great, but right down below you, it's tough to see. Like I sat up in the...
It depends how dramatic you take that picture. Are you taking it flat? Are you taking it angled?
I don't know if either of you guys have ever been in the press box at Scotiabank Arena, but you're doing a lot of this. You're looking over. Like there's places where you have to lean in and see things. Like maybe it's not as bad as people are making it out to be, but maybe it's horrible. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe to both of those.
Yeah. Well, what wasn't the Islanders forever at the, didn't they have
Barclays?
Yeah, didn't they have bad obstructed views in that?
Yeah.
And like it's happened.
Yeah.
So anyways.
I don't mind the hockey club. I'm with Dom.
I'm offended that you don't mind it.
They're
No,
not.
you mean the team. The
Yeah,
actual
the name.
team, not the name.
No, not the name. I'm talking about the team.
Oh, okay.
Like Clayton Keller, I like a lot. Logan Cooley, of course, we've seen flashes of
He's gonna be
brilliance.
great. I like that Michelli. You
know
like
who I
Lawson
like?
Krause.
Jack McBain. I am a big McBain
Simpsons.
fan.
Yeah,
and I love the fact that, I don't know, him and a teammate went into Costco to get like sparkling water and came out with a hot tub.
That's the most NHL young guy thing to do ever. Just to have a bunch of money and no one to tell you not to do stupid things. It's like, do we buy a hot tub? Although, granted, I have left Costco with a barbecue by accident, so it's happened.
So typical.
I've left with some wedges, like some golf wedges.
Like, what did I just do? If Costco wants to sponsor the show, it'd be great.
Kirkland Golf Clubs, is that your?
Yeah, I had them.
You use the ball, right?
Yeah.
The balls, right?
Yeah.
You know who I like is Liam O'Brien. If you're going to have a maniac enforcer type guy, I really like his energy. He's a lot of fun.
But
Game of Thrones.
Josh Doan's a good player. Dylan
extra.
Genther just got a bunch of money.
He could have been an extra in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
I can't imagine a team moving somewhere and like a fan base inheriting not only like a team that's decent, but like a better situation. Just with the picks and the cap space.
Great young players.
Like what the Coyotes were, and Bill Armstrong, give him credit, like building it up and being down there, and probably the ability to just do it without anybody caring.
Comes
or
on our
like,
show once a year.
He's like, it's like, we're having fun.
Yeah.
Just get all these picks and young players. And now you go to a place where they're going to be, by all accounts, really into it. And it's big deal. And now they're going to be decent. Like, I don't think do you think they're a playoff team? But I think they're going to be better.
But Ingram, if they get good goaltending, that like Ian Cole and John Marino are not small additions. Like they could be a playoff team.
Love them getting Sergachev too.
Yeah.
Like that's a real big time.
Which Sergachev you get.
He's a good NHL defenseman.
He is.
Yeah. So.
And Clayton Keller can still golf most of the winter in Salt Lake.
Apparently he is just a stick.
Yeah. I've heard good things.
Played with Rom all the time in Arizona. Sick life. Yeah.
Yeah. Tough.
On the heels of the news yesterday that Jeremy Swayman has signed, comes out news of Shesterkin being presented with an 8-year, $88 million extension. And this is from ESPN's Kevin Weeks. That he turned down.
What do we know about this?
Well, what we know is that Shesterkin had made it abundantly clear that he was going to be the highest paid goaltender in NHL history.
11 would do that.
I had heard that the number had been as high as 12.
His ask.
Yeah.
Okay. The question that I mumbled very poorly, though, is why do we know about this?
Borny, the first thing you said to me when I walked in, you're like, somebody wants people to know about this.
Right. Like, I think you look at Boston, suddenly the public pressure gets piled on by Cam Neely.
Sure.
And the deal gets done.
So this gets leaked to Kevin Weeks, get it out there.
Suddenly you got all the Rangers fans going, I'm sorry, you won't sign for 11 times 8?
And it's not enough.
Yeah. And all of a sudden your fans are up in arms and you say, look, you got to just
I had heard a week and a half, 2 weeks ago that this should get settled around 11-5, right, so 11-4, 11-5. So they're close.
Yeah.
They're really
Is
close.
this going to be the new thing? The public leak becomes the sign that they're $0.25 million away from a deal per year. And so many people remind me that 0.25 times 8 is $2 million. Thanks.
Shesterkin.
Really?
Thanks, math people.
I think Shesterkin went public that said, if the season starts, I'm not negotiating.
I think that's such a dumb thing to say. You don't negotiate it. You don't go in a room and with a hanging light in a dark room and argue. Your agent calls you one day and goes, hey,
Listen,
we came to it. Do you like this number?
come Christmas, if they came back to him with $95 or $97 million, he's not turning it down because he said, I said we're not negotiating.
Yeah, sorry. I already said I wouldn't.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I wish I could.
Oh, my
But
God.
I said that.
Can I get a mulligan?
I shouldn't have. My bad.
Can I get a mulligan?
Such a great point.
Yeah.
That's been one of our mutual hated things forever. But you can't talk about making $100 million during the season for 5 minutes.
Sorry, we got Columbus tonight. I can't chat about it.
No,
I'll take a minute.
Yeah, it's
I'll come
absurd.
off the ice to talk about it.
So 11 and a half is not a stretch for Shesterkin to get.
No.
It's not. And believe it or not, Carey Price still sits at the top at 10-5. And that thing was done, if I'm not mistaken,
84 years ago.
7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, that's a long time.
God, I still Google Carey Price cap friendly.
And so in 7 or 8 years, a new top end goalie can't up that by $1 million.
Sure. He certainly could, should, can, will.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That contract was signed on July 2nd, 2017 was when that contract was signed.
So I think this is like, this should happen. Like, there's nothing to stop it. And this is your goalie. And the Rangers have been blessed, man, from Richter to King Lundqvist to now Shesterkin.
Yeah, they've
truly
have
an
been blessed.
Incredible run.
It's almost like
Glenn Healy.
Beezer.
But it's almost like the Packers with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Or like those franchises that they just have a certain position like
The
locked
Penguins
down.
have had a generational player
Forever.
for 30 years in a row.
Except for those 2 years where they were like the worst ever and they were going to leave and then they just got Sid and they were just the best again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they've had a lot of good players there. But yeah,
that's nice. It's one of my favorite contract negotiating stories, and I don't remember where I heard it or if it's even true, but the Joe Thornton making, $7 million or something came to the deal, and then his deal ended up being 0.1 because once it came to the deal, he said 0.1 for the boys because he's like, I'll pay for everything, all the bar tabs, I'll take them out, just need the 0.1 for the boys. Pay the bill for the boys. 0.1 for the boys. I'd like to, if Sportsnet wants to tack 0.1 on, I'll make it for the boys.
Thanks.
I'll pay
And for the record, 0.1's $100,000.
$100,000.
And they went for it?
That's the story, yes, that they went for it. All right, you're the captain. The 0.1's for the boys.
Guaranteed didn't
Take the
spend
boys
much more than $30,000. They pocketed the 70.
He was really taking them out if he was spending $100K a year.
Well, you got a hockey team. You go to some of those places they eat
Yeah,
at.
that's true.
You could go through.
But he's taking him to the keg
What's
in Canada.
Here's a good question. What's the biggest meal tab you ever had to pay?
Kyper or someone else? Kyper didn't make enough.
So I used to take the boys to my dad's restaurant up in Markham, Peter's
Did you?
Steakhouse in
Your
Markham.
your dad
Highway
eat that
7
one?
west of 48.
Yeah.
And like Dale Hunter still tells me he's still paying off like the Visa bill off of,
Is that right?
because I didn't spring.
Okay, then.
No. You know what I was making back then?
Yeah.
Like,
What's the biggest one
80
you've
grand.
seen? What's the biggest one you've seen?
well, I was part of a rookie meal
Yeah.
with the Washington Capitals along with Alan May and Rob Murray and Robin Bawa. And I don't know, I spent like $1,500, which was all the money in the
Devastating.
world.
That's
But it was like
devastating.
$6,000 for the meal, which
Do you
is
think you
this
got
is
it back from rookies over
1989.
the years?
$6,000 in 1989.
Oh, buddy, it was like, yeah, I did
think you
get it
did?
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it back then it was like revenge.
Yeah. Because at
That's what
some
it
point,
was.
did they still do that where the rookies pay? Because I feel like they don't do anything to
I
rookies
don't-
anymore.
Well,
Rookies have it good.
I think a rookie meal still's a thing. 100%. Is it not?
I think so.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
But,
It is. But, it got to the point where it was entertaining and you'd hear stories and then you'd one-up stories. And then it got to the point where it's like, you
Guys,
guys
this
are
is too much
gross.
money.
No, you guys are gross and disgusting and it's a waste. and people are starving out there, and you can give it to charity, and then it just got shut right down.
Right. It's like, so-and-so got 3 lobster dinners. That's like, that's not cool.
Don't you remember the Boston Bruins Stanley Cup bill at $150,000?
I was just going to bring that up. I was Googling it. It was $157,000.
Was the tab for the Bruins at the post-cup party. Yeah. Like at the bar that night that they won and went out.
So when we won the Stanley Cup, of course,
I'm sure they scratched enough nickels together to get it done.
I'm not saying it didn't get paid.
So Stanley Cup parties, we're out. It's bottle service, and it's still like $2,500 bottles and stuff like that. And like I remember at the end of the night, like
running
the manager handing me the bill.
Oh my God!
For like $64,000, and I'm
touch that thing like it's on fire. Someone else?
Do you know who I am?
You're saying, do you know who I am in a condescending way to yourself?
Do you know
who I am?
Have you ever heard the term fourth line winger?
Yeah.
Look for mess. Where's Leach?
I'm like, nowhere to be found anybody.
I wonder if Jeremy Jacobs would have paid that.
I just looked at him and I said, I'll come back tomorrow with a more important person than me.
Yeah. I'll come back tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, okay.
They had no choice.
$60 or $60,000 bill. Yeah.
I'll be back tomorrow. Kipper's hauling ass to Mexico.
I'm doing Tic Tacs as collateral.
Meantime,
I'll be back for this.
I'm doing dishes. I'm mopping the floor. What else can I do? Never be the last guy.
No, this bar tab is hilarious. I'm just looking at this
Isn't
Bruins
there?
one.
I think there's like a Bud Light or some funny bottom thing.
One Amstel Light. $6.
Who's drinking the Amstel?
It's incredible.
One Amstel.
One Amstel Light, one Corona. $6 each.
And then meanwhile, there's
in there.
bottles at Ace.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not going to see Swayman tonight, are we?
Korpisalo, first guy off the ice, so he's starting tonight.
People thought they'd play Swayman.
Crazy.
Stupid.
They'll save him for the home opener.
Oh, I'm watching the.
Can you imagine if he pulled a muscle or got hurt? How stupid the Boston Bruins would look.
Oh my God, be the dumbest.
I'm watching the Amazon
chance.
series with Swayman as the feature. He's episode 3. I did forget. I did start it. He's charming.
Charming.
Yeah, he's a big personality.
Likes dinner and golf.
Likes the attention. You know, he really likes to be the man. It sounds like, which I think if you're a Bruins fan, you like that. You like that attitude.
But he challenged the Bruins right off the gate.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of there's teams you can think that you could stand up to, but this has been notoriously the hardest and toughest team to go against when it comes to negotiations. And give them credit. It all depends on where the Boston Bruins were. Like if they started him at 7.5 and they worked him, he needed to go what he needed to do to get to 8.5, then it was worth it.
But I hate this stuff. You have, over the years, I've learned, you believe in the idea of staking out these negotiating positions and that it sets the parameters for the conversation. But to me, it's so arbitrary. Like, if we go into it and Swayman says he wants $32 million, and then it's great that they talk him down to $20 million. $20 million's too much. Like the initial numbers are so nonsensical.
Well, his initial number was 10. No, it was 10. And there's a legitimate argument that says that the market has moved for top goalies to 9, 9.5.
Yeah.
10.
He might be. So maybe he should have been.
The cap said $88 million right now. It should be at $100. There's so much new money out there, but they artificially pulled it back because they wanted to look after their escrow and get the debt off the books, which is fine. But there's new money out there, which moves the market up.
Players ate it for COVID.
All right. Our thanks to Sat Shah this hour and Dominic Moore. Enjoy the games tonight, and we're back tomorrow to tee them all up on Sportsnet.